it. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the full-scale asbestos abatement contractor licensing application submittal training. So this is a webinar to talk about what that looks like in our new system, your DEQ Online. We'll talk a little bit about the modernization effort that this constitutes, and we'll talk about how you step through the system. We'll include screenshots, and we'll also talk about how to access additional help and resources and user guides after the webinar is done and you're using the system. So I'll introduce myself briefly, and then Kara can introduce herself. I'm Margaret Gardner. I'm the change manager for this project at DEQ, and I'm also a facilitator of training. So I'm going to be helping Kara just with the beginning and the closing of the training, but Kara here is our expert. Kara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Excited to be able to offer this service finally. It's been a labor of love for a lot of people and a huge effort throughout DEQ. So really excited to be able to get in front of people and kind of show you the system and demonstrate some things. And like Margaret said, you know, by the end, we'll have resources available. And I'm pretty sure all of you probably know how to get a hold of me anyway. So in the event that 6 months down the road, when you're trying to use the system to renew your license, if you can't remember what happened here, call me. I'm Kara. I'm the DEQ Northwest Region Asbestos Inspector, and so my primary duties are technical assistance, plus doing compliance inspections on notified abatement projects. And as you're all aware, I'm assuming everybody who's attending this is probably already a licensed contractor. As you're aware, you have to be licensed to do certain abatement projects in the state of Oregon. So I am your point of contact in the Northwest Region part of the state. So anytime you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout.
Great, thanks, Kara. So let's go to the next slide and we'll get ready to walk through this meeting. Okay, so welcome again, and here's how to participate with this Zoom meeting. This is obviously, it's the Zoom interface. Many people may already be familiar with how this goes. We use the chat feature if we are sharing information with you, like links to resources and things like that. You can feel free to raise your hand. In a second, I'll go ahead and unmute everybody so that you can speak up if you prefer that. But if you raise your hand, we can call on you, and that's very helpful to see that you're waiting with a question. Q&A is also a great tool in the Zoom interface. And if you click there and type in a question, we'll read it out loud. We'll also tell you the answer, and we will try to keep up with typing in that answer as well as a response. And I'll be helping out with that as Kara leads the presentation. So that is how we participate in Zoom. And if we can go to the next slide. So I wanted to talk just briefly about what this system is. If you have already attended the webinar or completed account registration, you may be already familiar with some of this, and I'll briefly go over it. I don't want to take a lot of time here on this because you may have already heard this. I do also recommend that if you haven't already, that you go ahead and get your account registered. I'm going to go ahead and ask folks to raise your hand if you've already set up your account. We'll get a sense of if you can see where the hand raising is. Okay, I see a raised hand. If you can find the hand raising, I see a couple. I just see two. So Nicole and April. And Robert would be the other person I'd ask. I see that we have some DEQ folks in the audience as well. Robert, did you get a chance to set up your account?
No, I wasn't sure where to do that.
Okay, good. Well, at the end of the training, we'll be able to show you where the resources are for that. There's a recorded webinar. There's a user guide to walk you through it. And then, of course, if you go through those things and you need additional help, then you can contact the help desk. So we try to make it easy. And I'll talk really briefly about that just to review for folks. But thanks for letting us know. So it's a cloud-based system. We're at that point in technology where cloud-based systems can be available on a cloud or a virtual gathering point outside of our agency, kind of in that cloud, that nebulous virtual location, and still be secure. So it's cloud-based and secure. It is centralized for the state of Oregon for DEQ across the whole state. And it's also sustainable in that this is an ongoing system that we'll be continuing to use. It will continue to have updates. We have dedicated support for the system, and it helps us to move away from paper-based processes so that people have less need to send paper-based, checks and paper-based applications around, also to hand deliver stuff. Doing all this online actually saves a lot of time and effort. And so that sustainable piece has a couple aspects to it. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a very brief recap of what we covered in the account setup. What we ask folks is what account type is right for you. Now for asbestos, I believe the responsible official account is the type of account we're recommending everybody sign up for, because it enables you to do everything you would need to do as a public user in the system. And that includes submitting any of your submittal types. And that includes applications for licenses, any permits, any reports and things like that. It allows you to click that final submit button as the responsible official. So that is strongly encouraged. It also enables you to link to your facility. We've had a data migration process to bring facilities over into the new system. And so you're very likely to find, if you've already done business with us, if your facility was already in our previous system, you're likely to find that system there. There's also a way to establish a new facility if it's not in the system yet. So you'd be able to link to a facility and a submittal type, such as training licenses or what have you. So there's an identity verification process with responsible officials where you enter your personal information and home address so that a third party, LexisNexis, which is a nationally known identity verification, can make sure that you're a real person. And that enables us to give you that responsible official permission. We don't save any of that information. So when you go through account setup, what is captured in the system is your name and your place of business and your contact information. But what you enter for identity verification, we don't hold on to. That goes directly to the validator and it's secure. So you would go ahead and validate your identity and then link to those submittal groups and facilities. That in a nutshell is there are many steps you go through to do the account setup, like filling in fields that are really obvious, like, well, first name, last name. And the system is designed to be fairly intuitive and obvious. But those pieces, choosing what account type, which we recommend responsible official for asbestos folks, and linking to those facilities and submittal groups are those two places where you need to make decisions that would be unusual or different from what we used to do. If you are setting up your account and you have any questions about that, we have those resources I mentioned to Robert about the recorded webinar where we walk through it and talk through it and answer questions. And we have a user guide that goes through step by step with screenshots so that you can see what the steps are. So with that said, let's move to the next slide. I think that we are now getting into the training topics for this course, and I'm going to hand the baton to Kara. Thank you so much, Kara, and I'll let you pick that up from here.
Thanks. I'm actually going to go off a video so that everybody can stare at the wonderful presentation instead of my face. But thank you again, everybody, for being here. This is an exciting time for all of us. So this is all about full-scale contractor licensing applications. How do you fill those out? How do you make a correction if in the process you realize that you entered something incorrectly, you typed in an old CCB number, or you forgot to add a supervisor? How do you go about doing that? How do you renew? So a lot of the people probably in this presentation if you've used it yet, you'll see when we go through this that it'll automatically default to new or renewal, depending on if it's your first time using the system, or say in a year you want to go back in and renew your license. It'll automatically default to renewal. So we'll talk about that. And then, as Margaret mentioned, there's also get training and support that we'll cover at the end, which will walk you through how to find the Your DEQ Online help page with all of those resources that are available to you, including, we'll eventually get this presentation up there as well. And then I also wanted to add a note. We'll also point out on there. So this presentation is pretty closely mimicked to the user guide. We developed a user guide for you to be able to, open that up. It's a PDF document, open that up, and it'll pretty much show what you're going to see during this presentation as far as the slide presentation, instructions, screenshots of the system with some instructions overlaid as to how to navigate this and submit your application. Oh, Margaret, this might be yours.
Oh, okay, great. I can talk about this. This is a change for us. It's a change for DEQ staff, and it's also a change for how you work with us at DEQ. So the kinds of changes that we're going to see, we'll talk a little bit about this. There were definitely questions in the recent account registration about payment. So I want to add a little more than what's here. So there are now going to be, in the new system, more fee payment options. We used to just be able to take checks or cash. Now you can pay online with ePay. It's a secure interface where you can enter your bank routing number and account information and send a secure electronic payment, just like you would if you were doing a utilities payment online or something like that. You can still pay with a check, but the difference is, so if you still like to pay with checks, the difference would be that you make sure that you mail the check to the new location, which is a US Bank lockbox. It's actually a quicker way to pay by check because it goes directly to the bank and they scan it in. We manage reports on the other end to make sure your check is received. The fastest way is always ePay, but the mailing a check, when you mail it to US Bank, that's the new method, and that location is on the submittal receipt. So as long as you mail that with the submittal receipt from the system to that address, that will be processed accordingly. Now, in January, we expect that credit cards will also be an option, and there'll likely be a credit card fee with that, as is typically done to pass on the fees that we have to deal with. So more payment options. This makes things a little easier and a lot quicker. Asbestos submittals. So here are some of the types of submittals that are going online. The full-scale contractor license applications, abatement project notifications and air clearance reports, annual notifications and quarterly reports. And I should also mention that this project is actually larger than asbestos. Many programs are moving into this Your DEQ Online system. For example, if you also do work with our hazardous waste group at DEQ, they are going to be launching their full use of the system in October. If you do any work with stormwater or many of the other programs, it's not all encompassing, but it's many of our programs at DEQ. This is our big modernization to really get us on the right foot with modern systems. So you'll see more about this. And then also terminology. When you see in the system certain terms, we've gone through the work of coming up with common terms that we can all agree on so that we have this one central system that has consistent language. So part of the build of the system is this acronym called ACH. And what automated clearinghouse means is simply electronic funds transfer. It's basically entering your router number, entering your bank account number, and routing a payment. So ACH stands for that payment, that e-check or electronic payment. That was something that I definitely had to learn and try to remember. I thought that that was kind of odd, ACH. We don't normally talk about that, but you may see that in the system, and that's what that is. Also, we're calling all kinds of applications, notifications, reporting obligations, or other things you submit to DEQ for these programs. We're calling them all submittals because they are all items that get submitted to DEQ. That's that common element. So when you see that term, it really is a catch-all for all kinds of things that get submitted to us. Issuance, this is something that DEQ provides to the customer, to the participant, to the applicant. The issuance, an example is the DEQ approved full-scale contractor license. Amend, of course, this may already be common knowledge, but amend is the term that we're using to make corrections to a licensing application. So that just gives you a little idea of some of the terminology that you'll come across to make sure that people understand where we're headed with it. Let's go to the next slide. And I think I'm handing this back to you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Kara.
Thanks. So as you'll see when we get to the end, you'll enter this public portal system and you'll log in and create your account and register. And every time you come in to either submit a notification, submit a clearance report, air clearance report, or to come in and file your license application, you'll log into that same public portal using the credentials you set up when you registered your account. So we're going to walk through some different tabs that you're going to see and get you just familiarized with the system overall and what you can anticipate as you walk through submitting your license application. So this is going to be your main landing page. We call it a dashboard. So when you log into your account, you're going to come to this page initially, and there's a lot going on here. So I'll walk you through what some of these arrows are pointing to and kind of give you a general overview of how to interface and interact with the system. So you'll see at the top where it says show pending and submitted applications. Anything that you've submitted in the last 3 months, this is just sort of an abbreviated list of what you most recently sent or are about to send to DEQ. So right now it's you'll see this little blue pending. That's because these haven't been submitted to us yet. So these are in progress. So something might have happened. You might have had to walk away. You might have had to go find an additional piece of information before you could hit submit on this. And so it's in this pending area. This other one right beside it that says submitted, that would show your ones that you actually submitted to DEQ, the ones that are waiting for DEQ to take some sort of action to acknowledge that, yes, we've received your application or your air clearance report, anything that you're sending to DEQ, it would be in the submitted area. On the left-hand side, we have a bunch of things we call quick links. So the first one, you'll see this icon up here, will take you back to the dashboard. So anytime you're in an application or in another part of the system, if you want to go back to this main screen, you'll just hit this dashboard icon and that'll get you there. The top one will be a new submittal. So if you want to start a new application, then you would hit that top folder. The next one down is the pending submittals. So those ones that are sort of in limbo that you're working on, but you haven't submitted to DEQ yet. And then that last folder is going to be where you find those submitted submittals. So these two folders, the pending and the submitted, are going to essentially pull up all of the ones from the last 3 months that you're going to see here. And then you've got a couple other ones where you're going to have some reporting obligations. Say if you file an annual notification with us, we'll set up a quarterly reporting obligation, and that's one of these icons. And then the last one is your account information. So in the event you have a phone number change, an email change, something changes about your account, you go in there and you can access your account information there. So this is our navigation panel, or what we refer to as quick links. To be able to see all of these or understand what they are, you can either hover over them and some additional information will appear when you hover over them for what it is. So like the pending one actually says resume edits. And so you can hover over them to find out, or you could click this little arrow on the bottom left-hand corner, and that expands this navigation panel. And that way you're able to see exactly what those are a little bit more clearly. Down here where it says permits and transaction history, you'll be able to see all of those issued applications or your notifications that that basically DEQ has again gone in and acknowledged and issued a project ID number for. So this is how it looks. If you click on that little arrow that was on the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see in more detail what each of these actually are. So again, you'll see the start new submittal, resume edits, track your submittal status. Here's your obligations tab, and then your account details down here. So how do we get started with an application? So you'll either use the quick link on the left-hand side to start a new submittal, or it might also appear in this list over here. Again, this is an abbreviated list of all of the options that are available for the asbestos submittals to you in the system. So you'll see the first one here says abatement contractor licensing, and you can either come over here and click this, or you could just click this little plus button beside where the header is, and that will take you directly into the application. If you decide to click on the folder that says new submittal first, it'll take you to this page, and this is where all of the amazing things are happening. So you'll not only see things that pertain to abatement contractors, but you'll also see things that pertain to the training providers as well. We've also incorporated into this system some reporting and card requests and their application process to be able to get the accredited trainers up and running as well. But we're here for licensing, contractor licensing. So you click on this again, click on the yellow button to get started with your application. And that will bring you into the actual application form. So you're gonna see some common things as we go through this presentation. And as you work through each of the submittal types for asbestos, the contractor license application, the notification forms, you're gonna see these same similar tabs show up across the top. So your basic info tab, when you first come in here, this is automatically going to default to new. It looks like you should be able to change this drop down. We actually had a question from a contractor who was trying to submit their renewal application and said, I'm not a new contractor, it should be renewal, why can't I change this? It's actually set by the system. And because everybody is coming into the system for their very first time to submit their application, it's gonna default to new until next year. You come in to take the renew action, which we'll discuss, then it'll automatically default to renewal once that happens. So when you first come in here, don't worry about it. We know that most of you have probably been licensed with us for years and years and years, but the first time it's gonna say new. So there's gonna be a couple options from the select your license type dropdown. The first one will be your full-scale contractor license application. You also see that in this same module, in the same area, you're also this is where you'll find your small scale friable and annual non-friable notification forms. So what does this all look like? Again, there's basic information tab, attachment tab, payment, review, and submission. And so these are going to be standard across the board. For every time you come in to submit an application, this is going to appear the same. These little exclamation marks are because there are required fields, and before you can actually go to the submission tab and submit your application, you have to make sure that all of those fields are cleared. And once you clear these required fields, this exclamation mark on the basic info, and once you process payment, those exclamation marks will disappear, and that's how you know that you've acknowledged all of the required information in that area. So basically you'll come in here and it's set up similar to what the former or the prior form, license application form was. So you'll pick contractor name, you'll enter your contractor name, your phone number, your contact info, address information. And then after you've completed all this, you want to make sure that you hit the save icon. If you have a mailing address that's different from your physical address, then there is an option to, again, add that. click the yes button, and that will populate, or this information, additional information will appear below. If you just click no, then this will stay hidden and you won't have to acknowledge that information. So supervisors, obviously, to meet the qualifications in rule to become a DEQ licensed asbestos abatement contractor, you have to employ a certified supervisor. So in the system, we have put this smart drop down where you can go in and you can select your certified supervisors from the drop down. And to initiate that, you're going to click on this plus new button. And what you do after that is then you'll go in here, and this will give you the ability to click this down arrow, and you'll be able to actually search. So it'll pull up this little magnifying glass or search bar, and you'll start typing a name of your supervisor. The supervisor information, the name and the certification number will populate in the dropdown, and then you'll just click on them to add them to your application. Now, little side note, if a supervisor does not appear in the dropdown, then please contact myself, Northwest Region, the asbestos inbox. Myself, Naveed, Audrey, one of us will be able to go in and make sure that the supervisor gets added. This list is populated based off of the information that the training providers submit to DEQ after they've provided one of the training classes and the students have successfully passed the class. So there is a little bit of a handoff from the trainer to DEQ to make this list stay current. And so sometimes if that transaction doesn't happen quickly enough, your supervisor might show up expired because the new current data hasn't gotten in there yet. So if that happens, please contact us and we're able to go in and make sure that that gets fixed. And that just happened, so that's why I'm mentioning it. So if you have more than one supervisor, then you have the ability to add multiple. So if you have 5, you'll pick the first one, then you'll come back in here, you'll select plus new, and you'll add their information, you'll add them from the drop down as well. Most of this information, again, should be pretty familiar. It's, are you registered with the Construction Contractors Board? What is your number, your CCB number? Are you registered with the Secretary of State Corporate Division? You'll hit yes, and then you'll put in your Secretary of State number. You'll notice here and over here on the right-hand side, so where it says under supervisor information, please attach a copy of the current certified supervisor card in the attachment tab for each of the people that you list below. It is one of the required attachments that the system, again, won't let you proceed with submitting until you actually upload a copy of the certification cards for the supervisors you've added. So that's why you see on the right-hand side that it says all attachment requirements, and then it has a copy of the ID cards for each supervisor. And the attachment tab is where you'll upload those. So again, after you've come in here and you've entered all of the information that's required in the form, make sure you hit save. Make sure you hit save. Make sure you hit save. I'm gonna say that multiple times throughout this. It's really important because if you don't hit save and you go out of the system, it won't save the information you just entered because it won't assign a tracking number. And so you'll have to start all over. So hitting save is really important when you're going through these. Because once you hit that save, it'll give you this submittal ID number that you'll then use when you go to this folder for how do I track my submittal and find out what the status of it is. You'll use that same number to follow through to find out where in the process your license application is. So moving on to the attachment tab, you'll see this is where you can upload. You can either drag file, so you'll drag a file off your desktop into here, or you'll click here and it'll open up a window for you to select a file and upload a file to this. But this is where you add your list of your certification cards, you add your list of projects that you've done over the last year, any enforcement actions that have been taken against you, or any other types of certifications you may have or licenses you might have from another agency. This is all where you would enter and add that information. And again, click save. The payment tab. So Margaret said at the beginning of the presentation about the ACH process, and then there's also the ability to still pay by check. And then coming soon to a YDO near you, we will actually end up having the ability to do the credit card as well. But for this presentation, because we only have the ACH and the pay by check available, we're going to discuss those two options in this presentation. So we're going to go through the first ACH process. So you're going to come in here, you're going to see that it automatically knows that you owe $1,000 because that's the license application fee. You're going to come over here and say pay amount due, the blue button. You'll click on that. And that will open up a couple of options. The first is the ACH, so that automated clearinghouse payment method. So we're going to walk through that now. You'll come over here, and step number 2 is you'll hit this red redirect to ePay. And that will take you actually into a different system. When we're done in that system, it'll actually redirect you back to this page. So let's do that. So we'll go, and this is what that secondary system looks like, that will have you, look at all of your account information, enter your routing number, your account number. Just make sure that all of this is correct, because if not, then it will send you an error and you'll have to go back and you'll have to say, oh, I forgot to select my state or something like that. Then once you're done entering all of that information, you'll come down here and you'll click the continue button. This will give you the opportunity to review the payment information. So payment amount of $1,000, the payment date, your bank information, and then you'll come down here and you will click this little box to accept the terms and conditions and click confirm. That will give you a confirmation number. You can either print this page or just write down your confirmation number. That's up to you. And this will be basically your receipt for how to make sure that if somebody comes back and says, well, we didn't receive your payment, you can provide that number and we'll be able to track that down. So when you're done with all of this, you'll click this return to home button, and that will take you back into your DEQ online system to continue the process. If you've paid using the ACH option, it'll show up here as paid in green. And over here, you'll see that the e-payment was processed on the date that it was submitted, and that, again, $1,000 was debited from that account. And again, click save. If you're doing a mail by or check by mail option, then you would select the second part of that. Under ACH, it says check by mail. That will populate this information that shows up in the please make the check payable to box with a lockbox account number, where you actually will, as Margaret mentioned in the beginning, you'll take a copy of your submittal receipt and you will send it with the check that you're mailing to that lockbox account. It's no longer being walked into the DEQ offices. It's actually being mailed to a lockbox account. So you would click check by mail, and then check here to confirm check by mail payment method, and then click save. And you'll see that once you do that, that little exclamation mark that was at the tab to begin with disappears once you acknowledge payment. So in the event that you get sidetracked or you aren't able to submit right away, say you get, you need a piece of information, your supervisor is in the process of taking his class that day, but he hadn't completed it, so you need to wait till he's done. You have the ability to come back to that submittal. So I mentioned about that submittal number, that submittal ID number. So a couple places you can access those pending in limbo submittals. You can either use your dashboard to go to this resume edits area. You can click on from this pending, this blue pending area, you can click on these three little dots, and that will take you into the pending submittals area. Or if you find that your application is actually on your dashboard, you can just click the pencil icon from the dashboard, and that will take you directly into that submittal that you want to continue working on. So if you choose the option to click the folder that says resume edits, this is what that landing page looks like. And this is all of your documents that are in progress. So any notifications that you hadn't submitted yet, your license application you haven't finished yet, those will all appear in this pending submittals. And again, to continue, with the application, you'll click on that pencil icon. So now that you've got all of the information on here, you're going to come into the review tab, and it's going to have you're going to have the ability to click on this PDF icon to review a copy of your application before you actually submit it to DEQ, to make sure that, again, if you maybe put in the wrong CCV number or forgot to attach the wrong document, you can go back and you can review that information to verify that it's all correct. And again, it'll show down here that all of the required attachments were included because you've uploaded a copy of the supervisor certificates. So after you hit that PDF icon, this is an example of what the application looks like. So it should look pretty similar to the prior form that we used to have on our website. So, you know, the contractor's name, your supervisor's information, whether you have workers' comp coverage, CCB numbers, Secretary of State information, and then a couple of other options that we had on the form as well. But you'll be able to review this for content before you submit it. Which brings us to the submission tab. So you'll see up here that this certification statement is similar to the one that used to be on the old form. You're just certifying that because we are giving you're applying to become a full-scale licensed contractor, that you have read and understood the rules and you know how to comply with them. So you will click on the button here to say, I have read and agreed to the above certification statement. The security question and PIN that you set up when you registered your account will be entered here. And so I had somebody ask me about why did I have to fill out 5 questions? and it actually comes into play when you get to the submission tab. You'll have to answer or respond to one of those questions with the answer that you provided. So make sure you remember what they were. And once you've got all of that information in there, it will actually activate the submit button. So if we go back one slide, you'll see the submit button is grayed out and you can't click on it. After you've input all of this information, it will actually activate that submit button for you to click on to send it to DEQ. And once that happens, you'll get a confirmation. It'll say submission successful. This is what that page looks like. This is and it'll say also complete submittal up here. So it was titled as open, and now it says complete submittal, which means that it is now in DEQ's hands for us to review and process. You'll also be able to print a copy of the submittal receipt. Again, remember, if you're mailing a check, you have to use the bank address that's on the receipt. And so these are some examples of what that looks like. So if you paid in full using the ACH option, this is what your receipt is going to look like. So it'll say processing fee, it'll say total amount due none, and when it was processed with the confirmation number. If you pay by check, then this is where you'll find that address on the receipt that you will submit the payment to. And again, please remember to send a copy of this submittal receipt along with the check when you mail it. So that way the bank can reconcile that payment with this submittal. You'll also, after you hit that submit button, you'll get an email that's sent to you from the system, and it'll say, hey, thanks, we've received your application. And that's just another acknowledgement that the process was successful. So once that's all complete, to know where you're at in the process and what the status of your application is, you'll be able to come in again to this main landing page, your dashboard, which you can access using that top button. And you can either track your status over here where it says submitted. You'll click on that and it'll highlight blue or teal. And you can click on the eye icon to open up that submittal directly. Or you can use the track submittal status icon. You can click on that. And that will take you into this page, track submittal. And there could be a number of things here depending on how much you've interacted with the system. You might have a bunch of things show up here. And so you'll want to look for, again, kind of that submittal ID number, and contractor licensing is going to clue you in that that's the submittal. And again, click on the eye icon to view the submission status. So that will bring you into your submittal. and the status page essentially. And you'll see again, this is a common set of tabs between whether you're submitting a contractor license, an annual notification application, or you're submitting just a regular notification. You'll see a submittal summary tab, an attachment tab, which is where if you had uploaded any documents, they would appear there. The issuance tab, email history, correspondence, and payment. So you'll see those are common throughout. This is going to also allow you to, if in the event after you submitted your application and you wanted to go back and print it for your files and you forgot to do it when you were reviewing it, then you actually are able to download a copy of the PDF from this page as well, along with a copy of the receipt that we had just talked about that demonstrates whether it's been paid in full or whether you're mailing a check. So your documents are going to appear on this page as well for you to download and save. So a couple things here are going to happen as DEQ works through this review flow. So Naveed will be the one who's managing and reviewing your licenses for completeness. He'll do the technical review to make sure the supervisors are currently certified, that you've provided all of the required list of information that you're required to send to us by rule. And as it progresses, these boxes will go actually from beige to green. And you'll actually see at step number 3 that there was a license that was issued to you. The status here will also say approved, and it'll also change up here from completed submittal to approved. And so you'll be able to track a couple things on this page to know where we're at in the process. Let me go back real quick. And down here, you'll see this withdraw and amend. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, what those buttons mean from this page. So if we jump over to the issuance tab, you'll see that this is actually where your full-scale contractor license number that DEQ issues you will appear. So for anybody who is already licensed, we're going to use your same number. It's just that you're going to see that the year will incrementally increase. So again, this year, if you come in and you use the system to submit your license application, you will find that it'll have 2021. Next year, you'll do it again. The number that is assigned will be 2022, and then the same numbers that you've been issued for years and years and years. To access a copy and view a copy of the approved license to download for your files and keep with you in the field or however you want to use that document, you'll see an icon here, and that will actually download a copy of the file that DEQ has. That is your license cover letter and your actual license document. And they look similar. I mean, it should be pretty familiar for anybody who is already licensed. It's similar. This is your cover letter. This is an example of what your license is going to look like. Audrey will be the one signing off on those. So it'll have all of the same information. It's just now that the system itself is actually helping us along by automatically adding some of the contractor info to the documents before we issue them. So none of that should be too new to you. Okay, so application sendback. So if in the review process, Naveed finds that your CCB number has expired, he would do what we call a sendback process. So that sendback process is an action we take on the agency side that will push it back to your dashboard. And when that happens, it'll show up and appear in that pending submittals area. But it'll also add this little icon that says send back. And it'll tell you what date it was sent back. And it'll show up again in this pending area. And so if you're not sure why it was sent back and you need to go in there and you need to figure out what needs to be revised or changed, then again, you just click on that pencil icon for that application. Alternatively, if you go to the resume edits area, it'll show up here as well, and it'll have the term amendment on the page, along with, again, a little sort of return send back icon. So those are sort of key things to look for in the event that something populates back on your dashboard. Was it sent back? Was it a send back? is there something that I need to revise or amend on it? And that will unlock it. Once we send that back, it'll actually unlock the submittal for you to edit, because as soon as you hit that submit button, the application is locked and you can't go in and edit it. So this will actually unlock the application for you to then revise either the CCB number or whatever the case may be. And a comment will appear up here for the sendback reason. So this was just an example, but it says CCB license number is expired. Please update with the current CCB license number and resubmit the application. And remember to save. So you'll skip the payment because it won't require you to pay again. So once you've responded to whatever it is that DEQ is asking of you, then you'll go back to the submission button and you'll follow the process to acknowledge the certification statement and enter your security answer plus your PIN, and then hit that submit button to send it back to us again. There's also an email history tab, and you'll see some stuff populate in here as well as it goes through the process. So as soon as you hit that submit button, you'll get a confirmation email saying, thanks, we've received your submission. If we send it back, you'll get another email saying, we've sent this back to you, and it'll have the reason for the send back. Well, you'll get another email when you send it back to us saying, thanks, we've received your submission again, and you'll get an email saying that your application has been approved. So that's all on this history tab when you're tracking your submittal. So this is that send back email, just an example of what that looks like. So it says the reasons for request or review are appended below. CCB license is expired. Please update the current number and resubmit the application. So it basically mimics the comment that you'll see here will be captured in this email. So if you aren't in the system and you miss this comment, then you at least have gotten an email that clarifies what it is that we're asking you to revise on it. So amending an application. So this is in the off chance that you submit something and again, you realize that after it's been submitted, you need to go in and revise your CCB number, or you need to add another supervisor, or you had a supervisor leave and it was your only one, and so you have to add a new one. You would be able to come into this track submittal area and again, access this submittal using the submittal ID. And once you get to the submittal summary landing page, you'll see that you'll have this amend option here. And so this amend option is what you will click on to be able to unlock the submittal for editing. So you'll click the amend, you'll put in a reason, hey, my CCB number needs to be updated, and then you'll click the amend button. And that will unlock the application for you to be able to go in and edit it and resubmit. And so you'll access that using the pencil icon up in this upper right-hand corner. So you'll go up here, you'll see this has changed now to amendment. And you'll be able to go in, edit any information that you need to update or edit, hit the save button, and then again, use that submission tab to submit it back to DEQ. So renewal applications, which is a bulk of probably what everybody is excited to use and be able to use going forward in the future after we've got you in the system one time. So from your dashboard, you'll see that you have under issuance on the left-hand side using those quick links is this permits/certificates area. And so this is where you're going to be able to track your permits or your licenses. So you'll click on that. And it'll show up, your status will show up as issued because it's been issued by DEQ already. You can filter, you can use any of these search queries to filter, because sometimes this could be pretty full depending on how much you're interacting with the system and how much activity you've got going on. So you can use the search filter under PLC type to specifically search for full-scale contractor license. This will pull up, hopefully, the most recent one that you've been issued. And you'll see over here, there are 3 little dots in this purple circle. You'll click on that. That will open up another little drop down area menu below it. and you'll be able to click the pencil icon. And if you hover over that pencil icon, it'll actually say renew. The 3 dots will say more actions. So each of these icons, if you hover over them, will pull up some sort of instruction to help figure out what it is that icon actually means. But in this case, you'll hit the purple button and then you'll hit the pencil icon, and that will begin your renewal. And you'll see, as I mentioned in the beginning, that automatically changed this from new to renewal because it's acknowledging that you've taken that action. This will also auto-populate because you're already in the system. This is your license renewal application. It'll cache that information and it'll auto-populate with this information. So you'll want to make sure that you review this so that if your phone number has changed or your email address has changed, that you update that information appropriately. And again, save icon. You also want to make sure that your supervisor is still current. So if in the event, your supervisor has been issued a new number since the last time you filled out your application, then you'll come in here, you'll delete the supervisors that are in there and add their new information to the form. And then again, you'll proceed through the same tabs, attaching the required documents, the payment tab, review tab, and submission tab to be able to get that renewal application back to us. Margaret, do you have something?
Yeah, I'm noticing in the chat, Robert has a question.
Okay.
He's wondering if he's actually in the wrong class. So he has a CCB license and wants to become certified to abate asbestos for a job coming up. So when he read through the rules, he thought he had to attend this class and then fill out the application. And it seems like it's more for renewals. Can you help him understand how he would move forward with this, what he needs?
So if you are trying to become a DEQ licensed asbestos abatement contractor to perform abatement in Oregon, then this is the application form that you would complete and fill out and submit to DEQ to become licensed to do that work. But if you do not have a certified supervisor on staff, then you wouldn't meet the minimum requirements to get a license from DEQ to do asbestos abatement.
So it sounds like if you're trying to become a DEQ abatement contractor, this is the right place, but you also need someone in a supervisor position in order to do that.
Correct.
Okay. And is there separate training for that, or is there?
Yes, that is through,
Figure out who that is for his group.
Yeah, that he would have to take a certified supervisor class, but to attend that, you have to have been a worker for a year. So if you want, you can get the information for him, and I'm happy to reach out after the class and talk to him.
Great. It sounds good. So Robert, if you want to stick around, this might still be helpful. This is also being recorded, but I'll also send a follow-up email after the session so that you have Kara's contact. So thanks that, and no interruptions. It's great. It's always good to answer these questions while they're coming up. So thank you for that. Appreciate that.
All right. Wait, do we have anything else?
We have another answer from Audrey. She said if Robert wants to become a certified supervisor, he needs to have been a worker and he can contact any of the training providers. Yep, that's what we were just covering. Yep. Okay, great. So that's it for now. Yep. But thanks for bringing that up, Robert. Appreciate that. That's really helpful.
Yeah, and for your awareness, we keep a list of the accredited trainers on our DEQ asbestos information website. So if you're looking to take one of those classes, then the accredited training providers who give those courses are actually, there's a list for you available on our website. So, all right.
Great.
And we're getting close to the end. I'm almost done. Just a couple things here. So again, renewal applications, make sure that you still have your hand raised, Margaret. Is there anything else? Oh, okay.
I must have accidentally clicked it back on again when I clicked it off. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. All right. So, yep. So make sure you update any information on the application renewal license. And then again, proceed through the tabs as you normally would, submitting the payment, click and save, and then submitting the form. So as we mentioned at the beginning, there are many things available as far as training and support for this new system. We realize that you know, there are a lot of working parts and pieces to it. And so in the event that, again, you know, 6 months down the road, if you have to submit a renewal license application and you can't remember any of the stuff we discussed, then you'll find, if you come to the Your DEQ Online help page, that there will be training resources available to you. And you'll see as more programs go live in Your DEQ Online, this list will get longer and longer and longer. But for now, asbestos is right here, and you'll see that instructional guides are listed, and that not only has the public user account registration guide that Margaret was talking about, but it also has a couple other things available to you. One of them being this application guide that I mentioned at the beginning, which pretty closely will mimic a lot of the screenshots and information and instructions that we actually discussed during this training. So that is something that is available to you for, you know, whenever you need it in the future. You also see that there are other instruction guides on here for other submittals for asbestos program, and then other trainings that we've already provided and recorded. They are also available on the website to view.
Right. So one thing that I want to mention too, Kara, is if you can go back to that page, when you're looking at that list under asbestos, it's when you come to this page, you'll see all these programs listed. It's when you click on the name of the program that this drop down menu kind of opens up with that content. We call it an accordion, I think, in web design. So if you click on any of these, you'll see the information for that program. So when you come to the page, it'll just say asbestos and the go live date. But when you click on that bar, that's when this opens up. So that's how the page works. The other thing is on that other page that you were on, if you could go back to that, you can see here that the friable and non-friable course, you can see the date and the webinar that was recorded. Underneath that is our class that's happening right this second, right? Is that our class right here? That's where you're going to see the recording, right where you clicked to register. So after this recording, after we download it and we send it to our web team, they'll upload it there. So also up further on this page is the link to the help desk, of course, and other resources. So just please feel free. This is a great go-to when you're revisiting this, coming back to it, and need any help. Thanks, Kara. That's great.
Yeah, and if you're ever not sure how to, if you don't remember to save this page as a favorite, or actually the login screen as a favorite, you can get to the portal login for your user account through this system as well. So you'll see that it says up here portal login. That'll direct you to the page where you log into the system.